Here we back. Yeah, we back. Now, with another interesting video. Now today, man, we got some very interesting news coming out of the Sahel, man. Take a look up on the screen. Burkina Faso backs a unified education program for the Sahelian states. Now, you could kind of say that this is a follow-up video to one I dropped a couple months ago entitled, Ibrahim Traore creates new textbooks for the children. And in that video, we spoke about how Ibrahim Traore had began this initiative to overhaul the entire curriculum, the entire educational system to build up the next generation. And I always say, a lot of problems can be solved within a single generation by simply equipping the next batch of children coming up with the proper knowledge and the proper information to ensure that they are properly equipped to intellectually and politically defend themselves against all incoming adversaries. And it's something that I mentioned on my channel many times before. The root cause of many of our problems can be traced back to our lack of education or our miseducation, whatever you want to call it. When you examine groups who have been able to obtain and maintain power, whether it's the Jewish community or whether it's the colonial imperial nations, one thing you notice is they place a very large emphasis on educating their children. And when I say educating their children, I'm talking about educating their children in a way that ensures that when those children grow up, they are on the hunt for power. They are on the quest for power. They're not here to play games of equality with you. They're coming for the number one spot, right? Because they train their children in a way to have this mentality, right? Whether it's the Jewish child, from a very young age, they're being taught about the horrors of the Holocaust, right? They don't run away from that. They make sure from a very young age, their children are instilled with that knowledge of who they are and what they're supposed to do to make sure that never happens again. Even if you grew up in the United States places a heavy emphasis on indoctrinating the children on patriotic sentiments, right? Learning the national symbols, the ritualistic, recitations, the Pledge of Allegiance, stand up, put your hands over your chest, things like that. The Statue of Liberty, the American flag, the bald eagle. They make sure these things are engraved in your mind from a very young age. They make sure you know about the founding fathers and the Revolutionary War and the Civil War and things like that. They make sure that American history is portrayed through the lens of triumph and progress and exceptionalism and democracy and things like that. They make sure these are engraved into the minds of the children. And those children end up growing up and they become the leaders of tomorrow. They become the governors of tomorrow. They become the presidents of tomorrow. They become the military leaders of tomorrow. And they defend the nation. But on the contrast, when you examine our nations, we don't have the same level of patriotism and love for the nation and love for the ancestors is not really instilled in the children from a very young age. And you wonder why we have so many sellout leaders. There's a correlation between the two. You wonder why we have so much ignorance and disunity among our people. You wonder why the xenophobic sentiment is running rampant. You wonder why we got things like the divestor movement, chicks running after these Europeans. It's because the miseducation is running rampant. That's why when I seen the news of Ibrahim Traore overhauling the entire educational system with a brand new curriculum, to me, that's one of the most revolutionary acts you can do. Because our current educational system as it stands right now, it doesn't matter what nation you're talking about, it is heavily influenced by the legacy of colonialism. The Eurocentric perspective is the dominant narrative, right? You wonder why you don't have the same level of patriotic leadership as other nations, right? Because when children are not raised within a patriotic curriculum or one that strongly emphasizes their identity and their heritage and their history, you're not going to grow up to have that same sense of pride and responsibility towards your people. When you are taught your history from a colonial lens or a colonial perspective, a curriculum that glorifies colonial figures and marginalizes your own culture, you're going to have a sense of inferiority. There's going to be an inferiority complex there. You're going to grow up seeing your own history as secondary or irrelevant. You're going to have a weakened sense of identity. You're not going to feel the same duty or responsibility to defend your culture, to defend your nation, because you were never instilled with that mentality as a child. And I even mentioned that in my comment section. Somebody came into my comment section a few hours ago, actually, and Dad said this. Take a look up on the screen. A united Africa is impossible. There's too much jealousy and hate. I responded and I said, I remain optimistic. The mindset of an entire people can be changed by simply providing the next generation of children with the proper education. We are currently witnessing the end results of chronic miseducation. And I truly believe that. I believe you can indoctrinate children along any paradigm, whether good or bad, right? Even when you examine the terrorist elements going on in the Sahel right now, a lot of those so-called terrorists are a lot of young men, right? Young men who have been indoctrinated along this jihadist mentality, right? You can indoctrinate a young mind along any paradigm that you choose, right? The same way you can indoctrinate a young American child to be patriotic and love George Washington, the same way you can indoctrinate a young man in the Sahel to be, an Islamic extremist, is the same way you can indoctrinate a young child to love himself, love his brothers, love his women, love his nation, love his ancestors, love his territory, and fight to the death to defend it. And the predicament that we find ourselves in today is because we've been chronically miseducated as a collective. So that's why you don't see that love and unity and camaraderie there, because it wasn't fostered there as children. When you examine the Jewish community and you see the level of camaraderie and unity they have, that's not an accident. That was a deliberate action taken by their elders to ensure that the next generation is equipped with the proper knowledge to carry the torch. And even myself, I don't got the largest channel, I don't got the largest platform, but I'm aware that a lot of young men follow me. A lot of young men look up to me on this platform, right? They listen to what I got to say. That's why when you go to my playlist section, you see I have a bunch of audiobooks. I've read a bunch of historical texts that were written by our ancestors. A lot of books that study the history of our ancestors is because I want to pass this information along, because I know it's not being taught in the schools. I know it's not being taught in the curriculums. Even my last series I just did a couple weeks ago, the biography of King Henry Christophe, probably my best series I ever dropped, right? Take a look up on the screen. This is what his brother came into the comment section and he said to me. He said, Nefakari, I don't want to sound like I'm glazing, but thank you for your videos, man. Your videos have helped me put together my geopolitical belief system, and you have helped me discover other great men like Marcus Garvey, Christophe, and Bondevasti, and other unknown revolutionary black men. I'm young, I'm only 17 years old, but it felt like there were no other black men with the geopolitical interest that I had. You've inspired me to start making my own videos. When I can donate, I will. Thanks, man. Loving these historical documentaries, and keep up the good work. Now, in a perfect world, all of the knowledge that I've given away on my YouTube channel, they should be taught in a school. They should be taught in a curriculum setting, but they're not, right? They're not being taught anywhere on the planet. The same way that the young Jewish child is learning about the horrors of the Holocaust, the young black child should be reading The Colonial System Unveiled that was written back in 1814. That's in my playlist section. Go check that out. The Colonial System Unveiled, right? These texts should be taught to young children all over the world, young black children all over the world, but it's not. We're not learning that. We're learning about Thomas Jefferson. We're learning about Napoleon Bonaparte. We're learning about Christopher Columbus. For example, I'm not Nigerian, but the black child in Nigeria should be learning about the glory days of the Oyo Empire, the Benin Empire, the Sokoto Caliphate, the Kanem-Bornu Empire, right? But instead they're learning about Frederick Lugard and Queen Victoria and things like that. And the homies in Nigeria always talking about they got terrible leadership. Well, how you going to produce legendary leadership when the children are not being indoctrinated properly, right? There's a correlation between the education and the leadership. And I'm not taking shots at my Nigerian brothers because I'm Haitian. We in the same boat, right? We in the same boat. We should be learning about the glories of Christophe and Dessalines and the Kingdom of Haiti and how it was the most successful black state in the world during that time. But we're not learning about that. We're not learning about none of that. We're learning about Christopher Columbus. We're learning about how the American occupation was actually a benefit to the nation and things like that. Like, the curriculum is so backwards, man. It's so backwards. It's so heavily Eurocentric and guided by the Catholic Church. It's ridiculous. So, it's the same thing all over the world, man. And then we turn around and act surprised when our leaders do the bidding of the European powers, when they were indoctrinated to glorify the European powers since they were children. And lately on my channel, we've been talking about South Africa, right? We've been talking about the xenophobic, or should I say the Afrophobic sentiment coming out of South Africa. But even that, I also attribute that to chronic miseducation, right? Chronic miseducation. I never sat in a South African classroom, but I guarantee they're not being taught a true education on their ancestors, the wars that their ancestors fought against the Europeans, the legendary societies and civilizations that were established by their forefathers. I don't believe they're being taught this information. I believe that information is being deliberately hidden or pushed to the side in order to advance this multicultural agenda that they got going on. And as a result, you have a chronically miseducated society that acts out in peculiar ways. As we can see, South Africans are very peculiar people. But I even had a brother come into the comment section a couple hours ago, and he said this. Take a look up on the screen. He said, "Why are other Africans bashing us? You don't understand South Africa. Our brains have been fried by colonization. We cannot use simple logic anymore. blame our glorious liberation movement for selling us to the Stellenbosch Mafia, the owners of the economy, to run this country. They control us with their media. They even control the state broadcaster. What we need is for our siblings to figure out a way to help decolonize us. Unity is strength. Now, I know in this video we've been talking about the educational system and the curriculum of the children, but another aspect of that is the media, right? The media is also another arm of the propaganda that strengthens what's being taught in the curriculum at the schools. And even in my latest series that I did, the biography of King Henry Christophe, somebody came into the comment section and said that this series deserves a big budget movie. And I agree. There should be a massive big budget movie on the life of Christophe. In fact, all the Haitian revolutionary leaders deserve a big major budget movie individually for each one, because that's how legendary the story is. But all of it is tied together. The propaganda, the media, the indoctrination, the curriculum, all of it is tied together to influence the mentality of the children who will be the next generation of leaders coming up behind us. But anyways, man, let's jump into this article. Man. Take a look up on the screen. The Burkinabe Prime Minister, Dr. Tembele, has expressed support for creating a unified educational program across the Confederation of the Alliance of Sahelian States, the AES, which comprises Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. During a Friday meeting with Mali's Minister of Education, Tembele discussed the potential for a unified educational curriculum within the AES. Tembele averred that such a program, especially in basic education, would strengthen the bonds among the three countries. He said, "We must think about the best way to pool our energies in the context of basic education. In particular, initially, students are supported by their families, but also by the school in the fundamental sense of the term. Therefore, we must pool our efforts to give our children a quality education." Dr. Tembele also suggested incorporating the history and geography of each AES country into the school programs of member states to foster unity and a spirit of alliance among the younger generations of the Confederation. Now, time out. That goes back to the comment that I made earlier in response to the person that said, "Oh, Pan-Africanism will never work, yada, 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 yada." Right where the Burkinabe Prime Minister said, teaching the children the history and geography of the other member state nations to foster unity and the spirit of alliance. That is how you do it. The reason why there's a lack of unity is because there's a lack of knowledge, right? As somebody that studied the history of many African nations, I can see the comparisons. I can see how we all went through similar struggles. I can see how, our struggles are all interconnected, and our enemies, we share common enemies as well. So a lot of the stuff we see happening is due to a lack of education, right? The reason why there's a lack of unity is because of a lack of education. The reason why there's a lack of a spirit of alliance is because there's a lack of education, or maybe not a lack of education, but chronic miseducation, right? There's a miseducation happening there. So that can easily be fixed within a single generation. And on my channel, I try to do my part also, because I know it's a lot of young brothers that follow me. A lot of brothers 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old. So I try my best to pass on certain information and certain knowledge to them that I know they're not going to get it in school. They're probably not going to get it from their families either. They're not going to get it from the mainstream media. So I try to do my part also, because that's really what it comes down to. A lot of our problems, the root cause comes back to a lack of education, a lack of information, right? A lack of information. Once you are equipped with the information and the knowledge, there's no turning back. Ain't no turning back, man. Ain't no turning back. But, I just wanted to share this, this piece of news. I think it's excellent news. I think it's a step in the right direction. And I think a lot of us should do the same. A lot of our nations should follow in this initiative, right? Stop indoctrinating the babies along these false doctrines, man. Anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari. That's Celine back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the channel, man. Support the channel and support the album. Peace.
No, feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders. You know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wife. Yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word and it's bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Back in my city they loving me. Standing Standing alone, I'm 100 deep. Enemy plotting and still in reach. They try to make sure that we underneath. Trying to make sure that we never make it. Coming for power, come get acquainted. Coming for everything that I wanted. Feeling like Drake, but I really wrote it. Feeling like Kendrick, I'm checking names. Gotta roll up while I go insane. Got so much stress, I've been gaining weight. Stuffing these racks in this Louis case. One thing for certain, I'm about to check. Keep it 100 and nothing less. Stick with the family since day one. Had to stay down till my day come. Had to stay down, but I'm never patient. Hop on the mic and I'm motivated. Hop on the mic and I drive a classic. Haters can't see me, they copping glasses. Back in the studio making magic. Got a new tape and it's in production. Back on my business, I got a budget. Staying low key when I'm out in public. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traitors, you know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wifey and hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word in this bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I'm eating no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news.